today we're talking about measurements. So we kind of gave you a little bit last week, a little preview, letting you know we're going into. It's not like a series per se, but we're gonna be, or it is.
I think
Spend
it's
a few. We'll call it a series as of right now. A few weeks talking about measuring dress forms, fitting,
making a muslin,
using your dress form to do all that kind of stuff. So today we're starting with the basics of measurements and measuring, and even if this is something you've been doing forever and ever and ever,
you might learn something,
yes.
A little tip. But after the measurement, then I'm going to go into how to choose the pattern that's best going to fit you. And we all have had the experience, myself included. You see the pretty picture on the envelope, you check your measurements, you buy the right size for what you believe your measurements are, maybe you're correct, and then you make it and it's a tent on you. It's just way too big. And you think, I've always worn a 12 in McCall. Why all of a sudden is this too big? Well, oftentimes there are, when it's an in-house pattern, they use pretty much a similar ease pattern or ease system. But when they oftentimes hire designers to create the patterns, and you know what I'm talking about, especially in Vogue, the designer patterns, they determine their own ease and their own, the way the garment should fall and fit. So it may confuse you. For example, Izzy Miyake. I remember when I first started making Izzy Miyake patterns, I wore a 12-14 pattern. I had to make it in a 6 because it was just way too big for me. So anyway, we want to help you understand how to choose the right size pattern no matter what the style, no matter who made the pattern, so that you are a little more comfortable with the fact that it's going to be a good fit. And later on in this series, we're going to show you how to make some adjustments for fitting, as well as all the things you need to know about dress forms and making muslins and the whole fitting and that whole package.
The whole
package. So we're going to start with the basics, which is the measuring and understanding the ease in the pattern. And it's really kind of fun once you realize all that information is really easy to obtain. So, shall we start with measuring?
We shall.
We shall. So I have a dress form here, which is going to substitute as my model. So obviously you don't measure your dress form to find out if it's going to fit you. You measure you or the person you're sewing for. So there's a couple of things that aren't always that obvious to some people when they measure. And, you know, we know as women, we're going to measure the bust. And to measure the bust, we want to go right over the apex of the bust, which is where the nipple is. So that, we call it apex. It sounds a little more suitable. And we're going to measure that. Now, we want to measure this without having it snug tight, but so that it doesn't drop. So we want a nice, even measurement. I don't care if you say to yourself, well, I'm going to lose weight, or I might gain weight, so let's change the measurement accordingly. Don't do that. Take the exact measurement. There's always opportunity later to bring it down or bring it up a size if needed. So you're going to do the same thing with the waist. And just bring it around right at the natural waist. Now, where is the natural waist? Well, somebody 25 years old is going to tell you your waist is down here, because they've never worn a pair of pants that came up here. And the pants have a waistband on them. So in their minds, this must be my waist. That is not the case. The waistband does not indicate the waist. What indicates the waist is the smallest part of a woman's body. It's that whole hourglass thing. It comes in and it goes back out. Where does it stop? Where is that middle point? It's usually above the navel. But with some people, it'll be 1/4 of an inch above the navel, and some other people, it could be 2 inches above the navel. So you can't determine by that. So you really have to look at the body. If you're measuring someone, you want to have the least amount of clothes on them as possible. So if they're a good friend or family member, bra and panties, that's all you need. If it's a customer, a friend, or a person who's not comfortable being that undressed, then a leotard and tights is what they're going to need to wear. But something that is skin tight, not something that is sort of skin tight, something that's skin tight, because we're trying to get this exact measurement. Now when it comes to the hip line, and we want to measure the hip, this can get very deceiving, because as you can see in this dress form, the fullest part of the derriere is down here. But I've measured people where the fullest part of their derriere is way up here. They have that real rounded that comes up and down. So understanding what is the width of the hip is to find the widest part of the hip. So we're going to come down on her, and it's going to be right across here. So you'll need to take that measurement just like you did the others. But the second measurement you're going to need to take is how far is it from the waist to the hip. Because in a pattern, they may have determined the hip line is 8 inches from the waist, and yours might be 12 inches from the waist. So imagine that pattern is going to be full 8 inches from the waist, and you don't need it up there, you need it 4 inches lower. So it's important to understand where that fullness is and how far it is below the waist. Now on a man, you need to take a neck measurement if you're making a shirt. And the neck measurement is exactly what it says on the pattern. So to measure a man's neck, you're going to come around the neck. But a man has an Adam's apple. So what you're going to do at the Adam's apple is you're going to put your finger underneath it. Just your finger. Just enough so that he can swallow when he's got his tie on. So if you're making a shirt that's going to be buttoned up or going to have a tie on it, you've got to give him that swallow room. So you're going to stick your finger in here. Okay, one other basic measurement you would take on a woman or a man, and that is the sleeve length if you're making a shirt. And many people think that they would measure from the shoulder down the sleeve, and that's a sleeve length. That is not. Generally, especially for dress shirts or button-down shirts, it's measured from the center of the back of the neck. So I'm hitting the center of the back of her neck. I'm coming across the shoulder, down the arm, and around a bent elbow.
Do you want me to turn to the side?
Mm-hmm. So I'm coming here at the center of the back of the neck. Now she would not have all these clothes on. This would not be an accurate measurement today. But
I'm not getting naked.
We're going to come down the arm, around the elbow, and stop right at the end of the wrist. That is the proper sleeve length. That's why some people will call me. They're making their first men's shirt, and they'll say, that can't possibly be the right sleeve length. It's going to be 8 inches too long for my husband, and it's because they're measuring from the shoulder. So remember that traditionally tailors, seamstresses, shirt makers are going to measure from the center of the back of the neck, across the shoulder, down the arm, and around a bent elbow. That's going to give the exact amount of ease that that person needs for that sleeve to fit them. Okay, so are there any questions about measuring before I move on to the pattern measurements?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh. Mary Jackson, is it important to get a measurement to the elbow and from elbow to wrist?
Well, if you wanted those separate, the only reason you want those separate is to understand short sleeve versus long sleeve on that particular body. And we're all built differently. So it's really important when you're sewing for somebody to have a few of those measurements. You'll just have a better fitting garment when you're done. So I think I've answered your question, but I'm not sure, Mary. So let me know if I didn't.
Okay, Sandy says, if the pattern of a pant or a skirt sits way below the natural waist, do you measure where the pattern shows? Do you measure the waist like you talked about?
Excellent question. Okay, so when you go to purchase your pattern, the first thing you're going to look in is the book or the pattern envelope to see what the body measurements are. That is the body measurements. And when it says waist, it means the actual waist. Because when we draft a pattern and we know where the waist is, then we drop down to the hip line where it's a lower, a pant. We know that. But we don't have that measurement in your general measurements like 36, 24, 36. Okay, when they say that waist is 24, even though the pants are riding lower, that doesn't come into consideration when you're choosing the pattern sizing, because they will know it's wider. And then I'm going to show you how to know how much wider it is than your waist by a couple of different things. So, but that is a very good question. And whenever we're drafting, as a drafter, I have to know, even if I'm doing a low-rise pant or a low-rise skirt, I still have to know your waist measurement. And then when I do the draft, I just come down the appropriate number of inches where we want that waistband to sit and take away that waist. But we have to know where that waist is to begin with and how big it is.
So,
okay?
Long answer short, always measure how she just showed, regardless of what the pattern is.
Right. Because again, they aren't going to change those measurements, and you know what I'm talking about. I'll pull them over here right now. You're not going to change the measurements at the top of the envelope. And you're going to have to turn this so it's, because
I might need to hold that up for you because it's kind of far away.
Okay.
For them to be able to read that text.
All right, so right here, Jess, I have the back of a pattern envelope of
So
mine.
can I take it or
Yeah?
to put it closer? You want them to be able to read it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It needs to come up. They're not going to ever see it that far away.
Right. But I also have to show them this.
Yeah, that's fine. That's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so at the top of your pattern envelope, or in the book of the pattern catalog, you have, here's the sizes, and you want to go and find your measurements so you know what size pattern that you wear, okay? So in this example, I've circled large. So in the large, it's got a 15.5-inch neck. That's going to be extremely accurate. That's not going to change, particularly since this is a button-down shirt, and it's probably a men's. So you always want to be, that's not going to change, okay? We know he's got a 15.5-inch neck. And we know he has somewhere between a 40 and a 44-inch chest. Now, scroll down here to the finished garment measurements. And now you can see at the chest, the finished garment is going to be 50 3/4 inches around. That's the circumference of the shirt at the chest. Now, if I have a man with a 40-inch chest, I'm wondering if I want him to have 10 3/4 inch ease. So that might make me want to go down a size. Even though he might have a 15.5-inch neck, I may want to go down where there's less ease. So let's say I'm sewing for a man who doesn't like a loose fitting shirt. He wants a closer fitting shirt. I'm going to go down a size, but I'm going to enlarge the neck. So I'm still going to give him that 15.5-inch neck. And then you can see that we've got, slide that over. Okay. So this is the finished back length of the shirt. So that would be measured from the base of the neck down the center back. And this is particularly helpful here because the shirt has a yoke. So you'd have to measure the yoke, measure the back, then subtract the seam allowances at the top of the neck and at the yoke and at the top of the back, in order to find out what the finished length was. So it's really nice that we give it to you here. And then again, the sleeve length is there. And these are, the sleeve length and the neck are monumental for shirt making, especially for men. Because that's how, anyone who's ever bought men's shirts, they know that's how they are. So 15 and a half, 29 or whatever. So that's your basics. So in some patterns, and a lot more today than there used to be, you're going to find these finished garment measurements. And hopefully there's enough there that that's really going to help you understand that the difference between my body measurement and the finished measurement is the ease that's in that pattern. For the circumference. For length, then it's just about how long you need it or how short or tall you are. You may need to lengthen or shorten. But the circumference is always a little mystifying, trying to figure that out. So having the finished garment measurements is one of the best ways to find the right size pattern. So now we ignore these sizes up here and we look more toward the difference between our body measurement and the finished measurement and how much ease do we want. Okay, so that is on some patterns, but there are some patterns that don't have finished garment measurements on them. But one thing I discovered a few years back was that the McCall's line, which includes some, well, the company that owns McCall's now owns all the commercial pattern companies that we know of, that you would buy at Joann's. But McCall's brand, which included Vogue and Butterick, usually does it this way. So here is a bodice, and what I want you to see, and I don't know if they can see that, so you might need to bring it a little closer. This is what you want to look for. This circle with a cross in the middle. The circle with a cross in the middle. At this very spot, if you measured the garment circumference after it was finished, is exactly what these measurements here. So this is going to tell me that the small is 40 inches across the bust, finished. The medium is 42. So I know how much ease is going to be in this top when it's finished. Otherwise, what do I have to do? I have to measure from the side seam. Sorry. Oh, well, anyways, I'm going to measure from the side seam around. I'm going to double that because I got two fronts. Then I got to measure the backs, and then I have to subtract all the seam allowances. And sometimes that math gets a little fuzzy for some of us. So this is a wonderful little system they have here. So every size that's in this pattern is denoted here. And this is the precise horizontal and vertical spot that this pattern was measured at for this. And here they even did it on the sleeve. And I know some people have trouble with sleeves, the fitting. If you have a heavier arm, you might wonder sometimes, is that going to fit me? Here you go. It's right there. And you're going to find this same measurement at the hip line on garment patterns as well, made by these companies. So there is something to look for. In simplicity, if you've got an older simplicity pattern, sometimes, I'm done with that. Sometimes they would have it on the, it would be underneath the flap on the back of the envelope. You'd find it like right in here somewhere or here. So if you've got an older simplicity pattern, look for it there. But most of them are starting to do the finished garment measurements on the outside of the envelope. But certainly these little crosses inside the circle are just, they save you so much time and aggravation. But it's important to understand ease. And so for those of you who may not be familiar, basic ease is about 4 inches. So if you put 4 inches ease, so let's say that you're, we'll say 30 inches around, and we made it 34 inches around. It would fit you and float around your body just a little bit. Wouldn't be skin tight, but it wouldn't be baggy at all. So,
Form fitting.
Yes. So 4 inches is where garment drafters usually start with ease. But then it gets added on in. And remember the 90s? 10, 12 inches of ease and everything. Sometimes even more. Actually, they sold us knits. And I think they were called units. I don't know. They had stores in the mall. And it would be pants, skirts, jackets, vests, tops. And they all came in 3 sizes. 1, 2, or 3. And they were just huge. And anybody could wear them because that was the style. It didn't matter. Could be 12, 14 inches of ease. But that's not the case today. And it'll turn around in a few years and be back again. Who knows? But you need to know personally. It's like we all know that one person who wears their clothes as tight as they can get them. And you think, I wouldn't do that. I couldn't. It doesn't look comfortable to me. But that's the only place that person's happy. They like their clothes fitting very close. And there are other people who like a little extra ease. And that's their comfort zone. So you need to learn and figure out where's your comfort zone with ease in your pattern. Okay, what are the questions?
Okay, so Mary Jackson is asking if the circle and cross is in the same place on all McCall patterns. She was trying to compare the patterns by placing the circles on top of each other. So Janet already talked a little bit about why that wouldn't work.
Well, the circle should be at the bust line, the waistline,
Right.
and the hip line, and then I see it on some sleeves.
But depending on the pattern, you said it's the widest point. So depending on the pattern, it's
Right.
you're not necessarily going to be able. It's what the garment is to be able to put them on top of each
Yes,
other.
and another thing I wanted to kind of circle back to was that hip line. Remember how I said you have to measure from the waist down to the fullest part of the hip, and you say, okay, I'm 56 inches around that part of my hip. And the pattern's 56 inches, but where does it get 56? Does it get it too soon or too late for your body type? And if it does, then you have to make that minor adjustment to that pattern to have that amount of ease at the right spot in your hip. And we are all, after drafting so many patterns, especially Pant classes that we do, boy, the body types just are, there's everything possible. So you're not alone. You're not the only person with a unique body. We all have them. So just taking a little extra time to take those measurements and understand and make that adjustment. Let's say that hip line was too high for you, then you could fold the pattern and bring it up to where it's supposed to be. If it's too high for you, then if it's too low for you, you bring it up. If it's too high for you, you just like whenever we lengthen a pattern, you're going to slit it and bring that down so that it's going to skim your hip at the right place.
Did that answer your question, Mary? So it's in the same place on every pattern as far as, she said, the hip, the waist, the bust, but you might not be able to actually put them on top of each other because it's a different pattern, a different shape.
A different designer, a different software program might put the hip line an inch or two in a different place, the waist in a different place. Not everybody is the same distance from their bust to their waist or from their waist to their hip. We've got people who are over 6 foot tall. We've got people who are under 5 foot tall. And they all might wear a size 8 pattern. But you can tell those proportions are not going to be the same at all. So when you're taller or shorter, you learn these things. And you lucky people that are in the middle, you probably just get by sometimes. And you haven't had to make big adjustments. But as we age, our body changes. And then we start having to make adjustments and we don't know how to do it. So we're going to go over some of those as the weeks go by.
Jean is wondering what you would recommend for jacket ease.
Well, I would start at 4, but I might go to 8. It depends on that jacket. So is that jacket a little lightweight jacket you put over a t-shirt? Or is it a jacket that you might be wearing a sweater or, a thicker top underneath? That makes the difference right there.
So what kind of jacket? How are you going to wear the jacket?
Exactly. And it's not a huge mystery. It really isn't. Once you kind of get the feel for it. But if you've been sewing all this time and you had no idea how much ease was in the pattern, you're at a clueless point right now. But once you understand it and you check it out on a couple of patterns, you're going to instantly know.
How about specifically the Jacket Express?
Specifically the Jacket Express.
What do you recommend for ease of that?
Well, let me get that pattern and I'll tell you. Because I don't want to speak off the top of my head and contradict myself. So let me get that pattern.
While she's getting that, Karen, I know you asked a question earlier about the sleeve length, sleeve measurement. Did that get answered as we went along, or do you still have questions on that? I didn't get to it fast enough. So if you still have a question on that, let us know. And I don't want you to think that we were ignoring you.
All right, this will be good examples here.
You need me to turn it around so they can read it, or?
No,
Okay.
it's okay. So here are two of my most popular jacket patterns, and one is the Jacket Express that you asked about, and the other one is the Motor City Express, the motorcycle style jacket. Now, these are worn quite differently. This one is meant to be very close fitting. So in this particular one, there's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of ease. So this is a very close fitting. Yep, about 1.5 inches. Now on the Jacket Express, there's about 4.5 inches of ease. And this you can wear over a lightweight t-shirt type of thing.
T-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt.
But when you get into coats, there's going to be a lot more ease for obvious reasons. You wear more garment underneath it.
So about 4.5 on the Jacket Express jean.
Yep. And then this one, obviously this is the style of the garment. It's supposed to hug your body. It's supposed to be form-fitting. So this one will have very little ease in it.
I mean, I don't know if you probably didn't pick. This is the same model. This is the same person. So you can tell the difference there. And just the different style of jacket.
Yep. And we're going to talk later about making muslins, and that's also going to help you a lot too, because you say, well, I don't know, it's 2 inches, 4 inches, what do I don't know. So you'll pick a general size and you'll make a quick muslin, and then you'll have that answer before you cut into your beautiful, beautiful fabric.
Okay, so Linda is asking, I have large biceps. Where exactly do I measure on the pattern to make sure the sleeves are large enough?
Well, that is going to be where your bicep is. So you know where your shoulder bone is, and you're going to come down to the fullest part of your bicep, and that's where you know, this is how wide it is, this is how far from my shoulder bone it is. Then you're going to come on your sleeve pattern, and you're going to measure down minus the seam allowance. So let's say that the seam allowance on this pattern was 1/4 inch. I'd come down 1/4 inch before I start measuring. Then I would measure down. Is this where the bicep hits? Right here. And then you can measure across. If this isn't available to you, you can still make that mark. Keep your measuring squared. So you've got a grain line, so you want to make sure you stay perpendicular to that grain line. So let's say your bicep's all the way down here. But make it perpendicular to this. So using your quilter's rulers, which I think we all have anymore, you can lay that right on there and know that you've got it perpendicular. So it's going to be minus the seam allowance and then down the distance that your body. Okay.
Does that help, Linda? So you're still using the circle?
No. Not if that's not where hers is.
Okay, I got you.
See, if her widest part of her bicep is all the way down here, she wants to come down here. Because this slants.
She said yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
There's no specific point because, again, we're all proportioned differently.
All right, I don't know if you can help with this one or if it'll be later in a couple of episodes.
Okay.
Maybe. What is the best way to adjust for a narrow shoulder?
Yeah, we're going to cover that. I don't have the materials to go into that, and I want to make sure that I make it clear.
But we will cover that in the next few weeks.
There are people that have narrower shoulders, and there's also people that have extreme or slightly extreme shoulder slopes. And I remember one time being in a group and everybody was excited about this vest pattern that a designer had made, and the group, one woman made it and wore it, and that's so great, let me try it on. And people tried it on, and on almost everybody, the shoulder was way up here and there was a big gap. So
like a wing?
Yeah,
Like
so it sat up like this, and it's because the design was a very, yes.
We wore vests for this. It was totally planned. Just to show you, Meg.
So that's what would happen if the shoulder slope isn't correct. And it will buckle if it's too severe and you're square shoulder. So it's not going to sit right. So understanding that about your body is really important too. And all of these minor adjustments that many people shy away from, or try to find a more general fitting garment so they don't have to make them because they really don't understand them. Those are the things that make your garments stand out. Those are the things that make you want to make more garments, because who doesn't have their favorite whatever they bought? I remember mine was a Forenza pants back in the 80s. And I think Limited was carrying them, Limited and Express.
Do you still have them?
No, sadly, I don't think I have them, but I loved them so much and I got so many compliments on them. They were so comfortable. They just fit my body perfectly. And then I went back to buy some more. They didn't have that style anymore. Frustrating, very frustrating. But we've all had that favorite. And then people will come and say, can you show me how to make those? Can I tear them apart? I mean, I love them. They fit me so well. You don't have to do that. You just have to understand that particular garment that you love so well was proportioned properly to your body. And being 5'1", I seldom have that. So when I did, I thought it was wonderful. But now, if I make them, I can have it every time. And after you've made a few of those adjustments, it's nothing. And I know there's some of you on here who've made that narrow shoulder adjustment or made the full bust adjustment. And after you've done it once or twice, tell the rest of us how it's just water off a duck's back. It's not a big deal. And it's a really good feeling because you know that's going to fit. You know it's going to fit your bust or fit your shoulders the right way. And you can sew with a whole lot more joy and be more relaxed.
All right, so maybe we'll be able to help you, Marlene, as we move forward in this series. She says, I have narrow sloping shoulders going into a 38-40 H bust.
Okay.
So she says I'm not having much luck.
Okay, we can definitely help you. You're going to need to make a sloper. We're going to get into that in a couple of weeks. Just bear with us because this is a lot of very good information, and we only have an hour each week. So we want to give it to you in the right order and carefully and have time to answer your questions.
So hopefully we'll be able to help you with that. I know you've asked before about the slopers and stuff, so hopefully we'll be able to get into a little bit better for you.
We have fabulous information about slopers. Anybody who's done the pant drafting, we've done the sloper in the pant drafting, and I've had great array of compliments about how happy. One woman wrote a few weeks ago and said she made pants for three different people, and they all told her they were the best, most comfortable and best fitting pants they'd ever owned. So she was just thrilled. But that's what it's all about. If you want that wonderful custom fit, and who doesn't? But we didn't know we could achieve it, I think. The basic sewing education doesn't always delve into the fit. They go straight to the construction. And I think that's probably because most of us learned to sew when we're kids or teenagers. Well, you don't have a lot of fit issues most young people
Yeah,
don't.
Sandy said that earlier. It's a lot easier sewing for kids.
Yeah, and the kids,
Yeah.
they're straight, right?
Yep.
They're easier and the seams are shorter. So it's a lot. I've been sewing for kids this week. Yes, that's true. That is true. But once you know what those adjustments need to be, or you have your sloper, again, then you're right back to having fun again. Just like when you were a teenager and you knew, I'm going to sew this up and it's going to fit me.
I will say the measurements and the ease information sometimes may be more helpful on the kids' patterns, because as we've come across, man, those kids' patterns can be all over the board. Which again, kids can be an average 7-year-old. You know, you can have much taller or much shorter, that sort of situation. But sometimes, man, they are definitely
so way
check.
off. Sometimes.
Definitely check the kids' patterns, because it's like.
And do not assume that if they wear a 6 in ready to wear, because we all know that's different. I know with Islander and with Connie Crawford and a couple of other better pattern makers, independent pattern makers, we try to stick to retail sizing just to help you. It's just confusing. What do you mean? You know, when I had my niece in and she wore like a 10 and I said, oh, we need the 16 pattern. What do you mean? I mean, she didn't even want it anymore because it had the wrong number. And it's still the same size. It's just somebody called it a different number. So don't get hung up on sizes as far as numbers. Go to the measurements. Forget the size number. And I know that's hard to do. I have the same problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot, Marlene. I forgot about how she fell and hurt her hand. So she can't do much for a while. But you can watch the videos. So that'll be helpful. You'll have some time to take the information in.
Yeah, because we've got a few weeks here before we're going to start sewing with our information. So this is a perfect timing for you. I'm so sorry you hurt your hand, though.
Oh, Sandy, yeah, that is just crazy. That's somebody who probably doesn't know what they're doing.
What?
But they are supposed to. She said, my mom just told me that when she was in high school, home ec, the teacher told her just to make the pattern super big and then take it in when you're done.
And you know what?
We all know that works out perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah. And when people do custom, and especially a lot of the Japanese, if you go over there and have something custom, they'll make 1-inch seams for everything. But they will likely not have to let it out. Or like bridal, they'll make wider seams in specific places so they can let it out a little bit. But you can't just go all over the whole pattern and make it bigger, and then you're going to spend all your time bringing it back in where you need it, and then you might throw the grain off. That's one of the biggest issues I have with people who teach pant fitting by making up the pant pattern, any old pant pattern, and then start fitting it with pins and tucking this and pinning that and pinning the other thing. Okay, a teacher might know how to do that. A pattern drafter will know how to do that. A custom sewer will know how to do that. But the average sewer doesn't, and may just throw the whole grain off and throw things out of place. Not to mention, if it isn't balanced for your body in the center of your body where those two crotch seams come together, you can pin all day. You can pin all day, and it's still not going to hang right or feel comfortable. So, yeah, just we do need to understand the measurements of our body versus the measurement of the tissue pattern. I know there are a lot of independent patterns out there now, and they may not give you this information, and believe it or not, it's probably because they don't get it either. I just heard about, I don't know if I talked about this last week or not, but it flabbergasted me, and I'd heard about this, but I just sort of turn a deaf ear because I don't want to get into those other pattern makers who are trying, but they haven't gone to school, they don't have the education, and then they just assume a lot of things. And so this one woman who had made this t-shirt pattern that had been sold many, many times, a download pattern, she put out a notice and said, hey, anybody who's bought that pattern, go and download the new one, because she didn't know when she first put it out that you can't use the same pattern piece for the arm side for the front and the back. Now, if you've ever had a t-shirt that went like this and you were constantly pulling it forward, that's what's wrong. There's not enough room in the back. Your back arm side has to be considerably larger. And if it's not, it's not hanging right and it's not feeling comfortable. It might be, some people might make it work, and I've seen people wear that t-shirt and they don't know how bad it looks from the back. And I don't know how many times they got to keep pulling on it to keep it from choking them, but they don't know that's what's wrong. So, and there are a ton of independent pattern companies out there that don't have the education and really don't know. And God bless her, she found out and she corrected it. So that's good. So she's learning, but it doesn't mean she was a qualified pattern maker to begin with. And I hate to see people be set up for failure on those types of patterns. So be very, very careful on independent patterns, just for that very
They're
reason.
obviously not all bad.
No, they're not. They're not. And there's so many of them now, I couldn't tell you which ones were good and which ones were
But
bad.
just do your research. If it's not giving you those finished measurements, that might be
That'd be my first clue.
a red flag. You know, there's always sites and stuff that you can find reviews, but I encourage you to also see pictures with those reviews, because a picture tells a
Picture worth a thousand words.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
And I also always encourage people to purchase patterns with actual models in the garments. I want to know what this looks like on a real person. I don't want a cute little sketch, because you know what happens with those sketches? The person who do the sketch isn't the person who designed the pattern. And some of those companies, and I know one in particular, I'm not going to say, but they drew all the pictures and never made one sample garment. They designed the patterns, put them in an envelope, and told somebody what they supposed to look like, and she drew the pictures. And every single one of their pattern covers is illustrations. But it doesn't mean it's going to look anything like the illustration, particularly on a real body. So if they haven't made a sample, that bothers me to begin with. But secondly, why not put it on a body or at least a form where we can see it three-dimensionally? Because those illustrations, they can look great. But then you get done and you say, this doesn't look anything like what I expected. But you'll know exactly what to expect when you've got a picture.
Okay, something I want to touch on. Sandy said, I really love how you categorize the Tuesdays at 2. I just found it on your website.
Oh.
I can find any topic. Thank you so much. But really, all the credit for that goes to Mary Jackson.
Absolutely.
She did that for us. And actually, right before we came on, I think I have an updated one from her. So thank you. Thank you, Mary.
19, yes.
You are amazing. And
you are a goddess.
If anybody's wondering what we're talking about, Mary has categorized all of our Tuesdays at 2 episodes in like a spreadsheet with topics. So if you're looking for a specific topic, say fitting, you can pull that spreadsheet up, use your find button, your Control F, and type in what you're looking for, and it'll tell you every episode that we've talked about that. She is an amazing rock star to do that for us. And
gotta love a librarian, I'll tell you. They know how to organize the written materials, and she volunteered to do that for us, and we couldn't be more grateful.
Thought there was something else. Oh, were you looking for Mary Klein?
Yes.
She just got here.
Mary, did you try what I suggested, and did it work? Are you still breaking thread?
She's wondering. She's been wondering if she was able to help you or not, Mary. So let us know. I answered you, Sean, but just so everybody knows, yes, we will be continuing this series for at least a few weeks. So join us. All of our Tuesdays at 2 live videos, once we're done, are immediately posted onto our Facebook page, and they all stay there all the way back from the first one with the horrible camera and the horrible yellow walls and everything. As much as I wanted
we
to
were
leave
sitting
it,
down, the camera was way up.
it's on there for you to for knowledge or humor.
Or
Whatever.
to make us feel good about how far we've come.
Whatever you would like. All of our videos stay right on the Facebook page until Facebook tells us we're not allowed to anymore. So there you go. Yes, Connie will be getting into dress forms. Absolutely.
Yes, that's
a big topic.
Dress forms. What to look for in a dress form, where to get a dress form, how to use a dress form, how to pad the dress form. I don't know if you all noticed when we were talking about it. I think, it's already gone, I think, this one. But here's one that I padded because I have a rounded back. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So those are some of the things we'll be talking about, is how to pad it if your busts are bigger than the average dress form, your hips, whatever the area might be. We'll be going into that. We'll be helping you choose a dress form if you want, and give you suggestions on sizing and where to get it.
Exciting information. Linda, don't you dare jinx us.
What? Linda?
She said no technical problems today. Yay.
Yay, I know.
But yes, we did mention in the beginning that we had the internet and the IT guys out here. So hopefully moving forward, we won't have as many glitches with that.
Yeah, it's been beautiful today. Beautiful. But last week I watched it back and it was just in and out.
That was finally the
fuzzy.
last straw. I was like, something has to be wrong. We didn't have these problems before.
Yeah.
So we've got things upgraded and streamlined, and I'm really glad it worked out. And hopefully it stays that way moving forward. No snowstorms, windstorms, etc. Okay. So, that's what we had for today. Don't forget, if you weren't with us from the beginning of the segment today, we have released the Polar Tech to yardage. So if you would like to buy yardage of that, many of you have asked about it. You can now find it in yardage, not just kit form, and it's 15% off. Also, the few kits that we have left are 15% off. So if you have been procrastinating or hemming and hawing on that, get at it now, because that's all that we have. islandersewing.com.
Yeah.
And we're here every Tuesday at 2 Eastern.
Okay, so next week, we're going to talk about fabric choices, interfacing choices, and the like. So we've measured, we've learned how to choose a pattern, and now we're going to talk about fabrics, and choosing the proper fabrics, and how to understand all of that, including colors. So it's going to be a fun and interesting, and the interfacing too. I know sometimes that baffles people because there are so many different weights and types of interfacing. It can be very confusing when the pattern guide just says half a yard of interfacing or half a yard of medium. I was shocked when I got into commercial interfacings. There's thousands of them. I'm not kidding. They just have books and books and books with pages. I said, send me some samples. And the guy goes, well, you got to narrow that down. And I'm thinking, that's weird. And then I get these books. So, yeah, there are a lot of interfacings available. Not as many on the home side. We and a couple of others try to fill in the blanks with some commercial interfacings. But that can make a huge difference in the success of your garment as well. So we're going to talk about all of that next week. Yay. Yeah. So I guess that's it. Don't forget to post your finished cake.
You have till the end of the day Monday, and we will pull a winner next week on Tuesdays at 2.
And even if you bought the fabric or kit today, you get it by the weekend most likely, you still have time. No pressure.
Okay, so that's what we have. We'll be back here next Tuesday.
Mary Klein didn't come back.
Oh,
Mary.
Maybe you didn't help her and she does not want to embarrass you
Okay.
on live Facebook.
Well,
Yeah, no, I didn't see it, but she said she had just got home. So
Okay.
I know what it's like when I just get home.
yeah.
It's a lot.
At 8 o'clock this morning, she sent me a mystery. And so I gave her some suggestions.
Oh, well, and then she said she just got home, so maybe
yeah,
she
she
went out.
probably didn't get a chance to even read my email yet. That's okay. I'll wait for your email, Mary. No pressure. It's just driving me crazy.
And then she's driving us crazy.
But that's just every day, don't you think?
Oh, yes, definitely. Okay, thank you all for joining us. We look forward to continuing this series. Thank you so much for all the kind words. I'm thanking on behalf of Janet because really they're just really grateful for this information.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I think that it's going to, when we get done with this series, it's going to impact your sewing nearly as much as the construction techniques that we teach. And so I'm excited for everybody and to be able to share this. So great.
Okay, so if you have any questions, like Janet said, what we'll be talking about next week, bring those in case she doesn't get to it for you.
Okay.
Okay.
In the meantime, send your questions email.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye now.